you, I'm sure you've climbed up the diplomatic ladder in your countries, and that's why you're the honorable representatives of your individual countries here in the UK. I want to recognize this spirit of solidarity in coming together as African Diplomatic Corps to welcome an African leader. I think that is a great sense of, a great spirit of solidarity that has paid this continent well. In all the times that we have come together and shown solidarity, it has been met with success, and I recognize our struggle for liberation and independence, with my own country starting first when our head of state said, our first president said the independence of Ghana was meaningless unless it was linked up with the total liberation of the African continent. And as and when more African countries got independent, they joined the solidarity to liberate the rest of the continent. And so the liberation phase continued until the worst form of colonialism and oppression and domination was defeated in South Africa, when South Africa became a democratic and free nation. And that is how it should be. Our continental organization, the AU, is 50 years old. And we gathered recently in Addis Ababa, and the ambassador is here. Thank you for the hospitality that was shown us in Addis. We gathered for the 50th anniversary of the African Union. And it was not just a celebration. I mean, people question, why this gathering? What is there to celebrate? I believe there's a lot to celebrate in Africa. The fact that we've even survived as a continent and as a people is worth celebrating, because this is a continent that has been most vilified, most humiliated, and the fact that we're still standing with our heads held high is worth celebrating. 50 years of an organization that has fought to liberate a continent from colonial oppression and domination is worth celebrating. And our gathering in Addis was not just to celebrate and clink glasses. It was also to look forward to the next 50 years and to think about where we want our continent to be by the year 2063. And so 2063 as a target year was used to simulate different visions of where we want the African continent to be. And those signs of progress do exist already. Africa is beginning to receive attention. The agenda of our people is quite different now. We have passed the liberation phase. Our people now have the aspiration of living in decency and dignity and be able to achieve their full potential as human beings, be able to have a good education, be able to have good health care, be able to share in the knowledge that the world is increasingly generating, and be able to have children without having to die in their numbers, our mothers not having to die in their numbers, just reproducing the human race, and that our children don't die, in their numbers before their fifth birthday. These are all things that our countries aspire to, and what our people aspire to. They aspire to a better life, and it is the responsibility of the leadership to be able to guide their countries towards creating that better life for our people. And so how do we go about doing this? We cannot do it in the command and control style that we had in the past, where most of our countries were under military dictatorships. Today, the instrument for achieving a better life for our people is democratic governance, constitutional governance, participatory governance, respect for human rights, strong civil society organizations, an independent and vibrant media landscape. These are all the instruments for achieving that better life for our people. And so we have to recognize that in using these instruments, it is not an event but a process. Democracy is not an event, democracy is a process. Democracy evolves, and democracy is consolidated over time. And so sometimes people get tired and fed up, and they say, oh, but it was better, the life was better under this or that. I've heard it several times when we were having economic difficulties in Ghana. People say, but why did we emerge from colonial dictatorship anyway? We should have just stayed under the British and let the British, control things. Life was better, And there are times in the democratic journey where people feel that it was better to live under an oppressor. But I believe that the ultimate gift one can have is freedom. And so our founders, Dr. Nkrumah and co, were right to fight for independence. And all the founding fathers of Africa were right to consolidate that freedom in the organization that they created, the Organization of African Unity. And that with time and with patience, the dividend of democracy will pay itself. And we're beginning to see some of it. Africa is moving progressively towards meeting the Millennium Development Goals. Most of our countries have met 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, several of these goals, even in advance of the 2015 deadline. But certainly you can't blame our people. Our people have high expectations, and it is for the leadership to manage those expectations and ensure that they enjoy the dividends of democracy. There are many challenges that we face, but we're beginning to see progress on the continent, and there's a difference between progress and success, which I will explore further in my speech this afternoon at Chatham House. We are making progress. For the first time, African countries are posting growth rates above the rate of population growth, which is a good sign, and that's seeing per capita incomes increase. It's seeing a reduction in hunger and poverty, but we need to run faster still. And so that is one obligation that we have. And there are challenges. Many African countries are growing. Of the 10 fastest growing countries in the world, 6 were on the continent. Most posting growths above 6%, and that is a good thing, and we need to continue to grow that. But there are challenges that we need to face, and that require huge investments. Where are we going to find the energy to continue to power the growth that we're seeing in our economies? It requires investment to be able to put in the instruments that produce that energy. And that is one of the things that my own country, Ghana, is having to face. We have growing at 8% average per annum. We have a demand for energy that is growing at 7% per annum. And so it means that every year you're having to put in about 250 megawatts of new generation to be able to keep up with that demand. And so you need investment. Government alone cannot do it. We have to balance investing in the social sector and balancing investment in economic infrastructure. We have had examples where by liberalizing and deregulating, we have seen an explosion of investments in some sectors. For instance, the telecom sector. Over the last 10 to 12, 15 years, most African countries have liberalized this sector and allowed the private sector to come in and invest. And we've seen the biggest explosion of telecommunications across any continent that has ever happened in the history of the world. And Africa is seeing that telecom revolution. Our people are taking to ICT and telecoms like ducks to water. Our children are on Facebook and all the latest ICT instruments that you can find. We can do the same for other sectors. We can do the same for energy. If we deregulate and liberalize that sector properly, we can leverage the private sector investments into the energy sector to produce the energy that we need to continue to propel this growth. Africa still has about 60% of the world's arable land left. We can't leverage all the investments to put that 60% of arable lands under cultivation, but we can do so in partnership with the private sector. And so when you see us go from capital to capital, not looking east or west or north or south, but accepting everybody as a friend to come and partner with us to invest, it is to leverage that partnership with the private sector to be able to bring out the optimum in terms of Africa's potential and energies. And so if you see me here in the UK at the invitation of the UK government, it is to solidarize that acquaintance and continue to leverage a partnership with the UK private sector in a win-win environment. I met with Prime Minister Cameron this morning. We had a very fruitful discussion. Yesterday we had a dinner with several companies currently investing in Ghana, and we discussed some of the challenges they face. We met others who are interested in investing. We believe that the kinds of investments that take place now must be investments that are a win-win, not investments that are exploitative or that people come to win at the expense of the host. Africa needs to turn growth into jobs. We can't just grow at 8% or 7% and it doesn't translate in jobs for our people. And that's how come thinking about local content and all that kind of thing comes out. Ghana has a new oil and gas industry that is growing. And we don't want the kind of partnership that allows expats and foreigners to just come, create wealth and repatriate that wealth. We want that in that experience and partnership between us and the investors, there's a transfer of technology, there's a transfer of knowledge, there's a transfer of wealth into the communities in which they operate. And so that is the partnership we're looking for. And the response is encouraging, I must say. And we're here until the weekend. We'll participate in the G8 Summit tomorrow. And as our Dean of the Diplomatic Corps said, it focuses on tax, trade, and extractives, which for us are key instruments in trying to realize the vision and objectives that we're trying to create in our various countries in Africa. Tax, in the sense of generating revenue to be able to carry out the developments that we want. We've come a long way since the days when we were just asked to open up for foreign investment. Do we still need to give those interminable tax holidays, 10 years tax holidays? I think that for now, businesses are looking more for a predictable situation, safety, security, enough power and energy, enough water. I think that those are more, valuable inputs to them than interminable tax holidays. If you give 10 years tax holidays and the energy, situation is not stable, I mean, it doesn't really matter, that you give that long a tax holiday. So what are the optimal, situations that we need to institute in order that we have a win-win situation between us and our partners who come to invest? These are all questions that we turn in our minds. Issues of trade, how can we have better access and remove a lot of the non-tariff barriers that currently shut Africa out in terms of trade? How can we increase trade amongst ourselves within Africa, take down the barriers so that goods and services can move across the countries? No country is threatened by any other African country if it comes to trade. We all have opportunities, we all have comparative advantages. And so if we took down those barriers and allowed goods and services to move, it will inure to the benefit of every country. And transparency. We need transparency to ensure that our environment is predictable and that people will not be taken by surprise, and that our people can hold us accountable for what goes on in our countries and in our economy. Ghana has a mining industry. We have a burgeoning oil and gas industry, and we've signed up to the Extractive Industries Transparency Initiative. That holds us accountable on how these resources that God has given us are exploited. And I believe that it's a good thing that we sign up to it and that we account to our people for every single penny or every single resource that we make use of. And so I want to thank you very much for receiving me once again, and I look forward to our interaction. Thank you very much. God